trying to grill her for acting suspicious. And she's like, I guess she pulled over because she was getting tired, and she wakes up to him like at her window, and she's like, he's like, is everything okay? And she's like, oh, I just got sleepy, so I pulled over and slept. And he's like, oh, so you slept here all night? And she's like, well, yeah. And he's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. There's plenty of hotels around here. And she's like, oh, well, like, it's not illegal, right? And he's like, well, no. And she's like, can I get out of here? And he's like, 1 second. Can you turn off your motor for me? And ask her for her license and registration, and just really dragging the whole situation out. And then he just lets her off. So it's like all of this build up. But then when she goes to, when Marion goes to sell her car for a new car, they think that she's kind of suspicious because she's trying to like get in and out so quickly, and then she pays them, I think, in cash, and then it turns out that the cop had been following her because he, like, as soon as she leaves the car lot, the cop comes around from the back, and then
I think he was watching her through, like, he parks the car like right across the street from the lot, so like there's scenes of her looking at, and she notices that he's there watching her.
Yeah,
and that's a scene that does not make any sense for the remake. Like, it's 1998 and you just pull over like on the side of the road, like you can't
like hide or be inconspicuous, I guess. I loved her Marion's like Janet Leigh, we haven't really talked about. She does a fantastic job, but I loved her like inner monologues in this, where she's kind of playing out in her mind like all of these like false scenarios of things playing out. Like when she leaves the car lot, you can hear like the voice of like the cop and then the car dealer, and she's like, well, the interesting thing is, she paid me all in cash, and do you think she's a bad one? And then the cop's like, well, she's sure acting like it. Like these weird little like her being paranoid. Well, I'm not sure, that's how I took it. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like factual or just her being like scared.
No, I think it's supposed to be like how you're saying, how she's kind of it's just all paranoia. Even going back to that first scene when she had just stolen the money, and like she's doing the same thing, and yeah, I think it's meant to be like that. But yeah, no, she is OG Scream Queen, one of the greatest.
For anybody who doesn't know out there, that is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, who makes a rad. She makes a rad cameo on H2O. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
She's like she was like the counselor or something at that like school, and everybody or they run into each other, her and Jamie, and then she's like, everybody's entitled to one good scare. And then she walks off, and I think she gets into that same car, that same model car that she used from Psycho. Well, if you guys are listening out there and you haven't seen the original Psycho and you're still with us, do yourself a favor and go watch it, because it's great. I don't think it's scary in the traditional sense, but it's scary in the way that it's like, it's taking you into like the psyche of somebody and kind of revealing like how you never truly know what somebody's capable of, and in that aspect it's pretty scary,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's I think that's the like this, for me, that's what scared me the most when I was little, because like didn't know what he was fully capable of until like the very end, and you found out everything. And it's kind of going back like to what you said, like you just never know what someone's capable of doing,
and this is one of those films that are like etched in history, in pop culture forever, like it's like it did for showers what Jaws did for the ocean. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah, no, like I said, I still get kind of hear a noise and like, what was that? It's like I turn around and it's nothing. But yeah, I know. Definitely when I was younger, it scared the shit out of me, especially that scene.
yeah,
I don't even think I locked the door. When I was little, I used to just lock the door in general when I would go to the bathroom. I know that's not like the safest thing to do, but definitely had to do that for a while after watching that scene.
that makes sense. You know, because I think it's genius that they chose the shower for her death, because it's like that's supposed to be kind of a sacred private space, you know what I mean, where you can, you know, you go to be alone, to kind of decompress and unwind from your day or what have you, and then to have that kind of piece like ripped away, or to see it done to somebody else, is super unnerving, you know?
Yeah, especially like you said, like in a place where you're kind of super vulnerable when you're in a shower, when you're showering.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, I could not imagine what those people in 1960 felt watching that movie for the first time in theaters. Like,
probably the same thing, probably the same effect The Exorcist had. Holy shit.
oh yeah, dude, insane.
Throwing up in the audience and
I think I read somewhere where that happened a lot. Didn't he have like a no, like you couldn't show up late to the movie policy?
Yeah. Yes.
And a lot of movie theaters were like upset because that he put that in place, but it kind of like after the first couple showings, they were like, people were lining up for hours to watch it, so they weren't late to the movie, so it worked.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that just, it goes back to being like a real like cinephile, where like if you're gonna just taking it to an extreme measure, where you're like, well, if you're going to watch my movie, you can't be late, because then you're not going to get the full experience. So what's the point, you know? Because of course, he was like doing the Shyamalan thing before Shyamalan. So it's like, yeah, if you go into that and you miss just like, you know, any detail, it could possibly ruin like the twist at the end. So I thought that's pretty cool that he was able to put that into effect and actually have it happen. Yeah,
I think I read somewhere too, like that the toilet flushing was like the first on-screen toilet flush in movie history.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. I don't know what was going on with toilets that they didn't want to see them on screen.
I think it was just a very sheltered time, you know?
Yeah.
Just like with the... I have, I guess, one Swan fact where I believe part of the decision to have Psycho be shot in black and white was so that he could get away with a lot more of the violence and have it not look as bad, whether, you know, rather than it being shot in color, you know. And this was something that, going back to Tarantino and Kill Bill, he had a lot of problems on that set, and that's why in the middle, I think when she gets to that big bar or wherever they're at the end of volume 1, and the color drops out and it's black and white, yeah, that's the reason why he cuts to black and white. It was because the MPAA would not give it an R rating with that scene in color. So he's a genius, and he was just like, well, I'll just turn it to black and white, and then you guys can't say anything. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then like the whole movie in general obviously was like first for a whole bunch of things, for on-screen things, but I guess like more than like the shower scene, I guess people were upset about like that opening scene with them in bed, because it showed them in like the same bed, not separate beds, for a period of time. And which is insane.
They were not officially together. It was kind of like like friends with benefits type of deal. And that's Marion even tells him like, next time we see each other, it's gonna have to be like decent, or we're gonna have like, you're gonna come over and we're gonna have like a meal, and my sister will be there, and my and a picture of my mom will be on the mantle.
He says that line that's like, after she says that, he says that line that's like, and after the steak, we send your sister to the movies or something, and then turn your mom's picture around.
So yeah, like the big especially just displaying that in cinema at that time, premarital sex was not really portrayed, or no, it was looked at as taboo, right?
Yeah.
No wonder. I feel like no wonder Paramount was like scared of this adaptation, because they were like, they read the screenplay and was like, this isn't gonna fly. No way.
And it was only like, I think like maybe 20, or I think like in the mid 80s is when they redid the rating to an R, but it was like PG for all that time. Oh,
that's right, because I think, and we've talked about this on the show before, but like Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, and Gremlins were two of the movies that were created the PG-13 rating, because before them there was none. So then you would have like films like Jaws is PG, but it's fucking, there's some violent shit in there. Like he fucking eats a little kid, and it's PG, and it's just because they didn't have that jump where it's like, okay, this isn't violent enough to be R, or it's not adult enough to be R, but it's, So then Temple of Doom and Gremlins created the PG-13, so that makes sense that that Psycho would be PG for the longest time, which is...
And that's like very telling of the time where like people getting murdered on screen was fine, but like a man and woman in bed
is sacrilege. Yeah. Not even doing anything there. It was very like, you watch it now and you're like, well, this is nothing compared to what they show now, But back then. So next week we are going to be bringing Chris Pollock back on for his end of the month takeover, and I believe that film is going to be David Fincher's The Game. We're going to talk about.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty rad and underrated film for that director. So I'm excited to talk about that with my boy Chris. But also I wanted to invite you back on the show, maybe to do a couple more spooky films if you can fit us into your agenda or whatever.
My agenda of playing PlayStation every of course, dude. Yeah, it'd be an honor to be back. And I'm also very excited for Chris's episode because I love those end of month episodes too.
Nice. He's a good dude, and he'll be very happy to hear you say that, I'm sure. But yeah, so The Game next week with my boy Chris Pollock, and if you're listening out there and you're not aware of what we do, we run this podcast out of San Diego, California, and we are available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Luminary. We also have a social media presence on Instagram, so if you want to follow us on there, it's at @dropthemic_podcast. If you want to reach out and ask us to do a specific movie, or if you want to be a guest on the show, we can always patch you in through the phone or through Zoom or wherever you're comfortable. So if you're interested in that, hit us up and let us know. And yeah, and then I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Ryan for jumping on. This was so fun. and we don't, I feel like we don't get to do like films that